We're joined here with David. I'm David, as some of you might know, and we're playing Frame of Mind. All right, so I won't continue the existing game. I'll start a new one. Great. So first thing I wanted to ask, David, when did the team start working on Frame of Mind?
We started working on it about midway through 2020. We were given a prompt to make this game, which was monochrome, surreal, and 2D with 3D elements. So we made a prototype in about the span of a week, and then we finished it in the span of a month, and then we spent another month just polishing it up. So
That's amazing. So I guess that's what prompted the art style, because I was going to ask about the distinct look of it, and you mentioned the monochromatic palette. So that's where it came from.
yes,
Okay.
yeah. So I think we took inspiration from games like Borderlands, where when they render their meshes, they render it twice, once for the inside, once for the outside, which gives everything the outline. And then we had our talented artists go through and do all the line work on the props to give them a bit more of a drawn look.
Yeah, it looks incredible. It's
Yeah, thanks.
it's really really unique. I know that sort of the first impression that I had, or something, one game that it reminded me of is Unfinished Swan, if you're familiar with it. Um, Although very very different, because that game, you're in a lot of environments where it's just white and you have to paint the environments to find yourself. But in scenes like this, where there's just a few details, it's really quite striking and really nice to look at.
Thanks. Yeah, we often get compared to Antichamber, which I think is a compliment.
So I haven't made it this far in the game yet, and just seeing how this hallway acts as. All right, so this is. I feel like I'm going for quite the adventure. Oh, I see. This is awesome. So, and you mentioned beforehand that you handled some of the puzzles, or some puzzle
Yes,
design.
yeah.
Yeah.
So we when we had the prototype done, we had one or two puzzle elements already made, and then as we went through, we kind of tried to string the puzzles together, making more complex versions of it. Largely, I was implementing the ideas that our designers had, but then also, yeah, just trying to like see what we can do that like maximizes the use of the two, like the monochromeness.
Yeah. This was really clever too. That I step on the tiles and I look up and I notice, hey, wait a second, there's something above me.
Yeah, this puzzle was quite interesting because we noticed that we didn't intend it to be a hidden walkway from above, but it kind of ended up having that outcome, and we liked the idea, so we kind of stuck with it.
And the team that worked on the game, from what I could tell, that there were 6 people involved.
Yes, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and you mentioned before that there were 3 programmers. Was the audio made from someone in the team, or how was that made?
Yes, so one of our programmers is quite talented with a lot of game design elements, Ben. So he also did all of the audio. He created the soundtrack and implemented basically everything that you hear.
That's really cool. I find God, I'm so confused. The audio really fits the whole theme of the game. The music, I should say, fits the whole theme.
Yeah, thanks.
Oh. Yeah, around every corner, I just find myself so surprised. This is really, really fun.
Yeah, we tried to include kind of those little like elements of storytelling that weren't really attached to the game, but just like kind of looked like something interesting.
Yeah.
We've had a few people that kind of read a lot into it, and we're kind of, we're glad that people can see our game for more than what it actually is. But yeah, a lot of things we were just like, oh, that looks quite aesthetic.
Yeah. I think that happens when people. Okay, I think I'm going into circles now. When people analyze your art, but you haven't put that much thought into it, and then you're kind of like, oh yeah, well, maybe that's true. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So this was probably the second puzzle that I made.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this was one where we initially started with the concept of something kind of crazy, of an infinite staircase. What would that look like?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then we obviously had to create a puzzle out of it. So hopefully soon
Yeah.
you'll discover it.
I'm trying to figure out the the solution, but
We've had some playtesters walk around in circles for 10 minutes, and that's always fun.
I think that you might get that today. But I love because of the limited scope, or hang on, the limited palette. I find that it limits how much you can do with puzzles and stuff like that. And I love that because from the player's point of view, you know that there aren't things out of your control that aren't going to be involved with the puzzles. It's like everything that is present, you should be able to figure it out. And I love that because like I said, you don't have to worry about all these other sources.
Yeah. We noticed one of the strengths of the game was also a weakness in creating the game. Because there's no shading on anything, there's no ambient occlusion, you can't tell if there's a black surface in front of you and then a black surface behind that. You can't tell where one starts and another stops. So that ended up being quite difficult to design, but it also meant we could have like fake doors in places and literally anywhere, as long as the hallways and the wall behind it was the same color.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell. Yeah,
and from my point of view, I love that stuff. It's just, it always catches you by surprise. Like just that moment back there when I just walked across and I had this moment of like eureka, like, oh, I figured it out. There was a door here the whole time. Okay, so I feel like these irons are teaching me something, but I can't.
Yes, this is one that we have a lot of players get stuck at, and I think we did something very unintuitive here, which also started out as a bug, actually.
Really?
Yeah. So when creating because we made our first-person control from scratch, when creating that, you have to limit how far up the player can look. And one time I simply forgot to implement that, and then I was like, oh, this is kind of funny. You can like look all the way behind you, and then we were like, actually, how about we add gravity switching just by looking up?
Oh, I love it. It's really clever, and again, going back to sort of the limited skill set, it kind of makes sense within the game that, of course, why wouldn't you have that? It seems to fit.
We do have.
I'm having a blast. I just wanted to mention that, but yeah, go ahead.
We do have a lot of people start to get nauseous, and we've had a lot of reports of people becoming sick from our game.
Yeah.
Which we didn't get during play tests, so we thought would be fine. But we noticed after we got tons of downloads on Steam, it was quite consistent.
Yeah, I could see that being an issue. Luckily, it hasn't affected me yet. But
that's good.
Oh. Okay. Were there inspirations from that you can speak of for the game and sort of the puzzles and how they were created, other than bugs and stuff like that?
Not that I can think of. I think a lot of them was kind of just initially thinking of how we can like change up everything, and then like change up the idea of a first person game, like non-Euclidean geometry. So that was kind of inspired by games like Antichamber, which have done that quite a bit before.
Yeah.
But a lot of the other things we've actually just discovered ourselves by accidentally tripping upon them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're kind of happy with how that turned out, but it also meant that there's a lot of stuff that it's hard for players to understand, just because it's so different from a lot of other games.
Yeah, and I think that aesthetically, I think there's something quite appealing to maybe non-gamers as well. But you're right. I think that there is quite a bit of complexity that I wonder as well with non-gamers how they would approach the game as well. If it's something that people like you, wow, people like you and I who are quite experienced and they sort of understand how games could work. But there's sort of lots of things here that you have to change your mindset and think that, like the anti-gravity. Okay, I can all of a sudden shoot myself across the room.
Yeah. A lot of our set dressing as well was done so that the player could help position themselves. Again, if you have a big room and you've just got large like walls of color, it's very difficult to see where anything is. So if you can put an iron on the wall, then it helps the player see, okay, there is like, that's a physical object in front of me.
Yeah. And I thought for me that the iron on the wall was a good reminder as well that, oh yeah, I can, or I should use the anti-gravity in this room.
Mm.
But it's funny that after you've used the anti-gravity a few times in the same room, I sort of lose sense of what is up and what's down. Everything just feels, anything could be up or down at this point.
Yes, yeah. This room was quite hard to develop for because I found myself often getting lost in it, even after playing through it 10, 20 times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, see, I love this. I didn't realize that there would be an edge. I thought it would kept going, but
Yeah.
okay. So I've hit that switch. Now I'm trying to see where I could use that. And explore. Oh, there was.
It's very funny, like as a developer, always watching people play it.
Yeah. Oh.
Because when you know the solution, you're always like, just go there, just do that. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it must have been really fun to watch, to see the playtesting for this game. Did you guys get to do quite a bit, or?
We did a fair amount. Our puzzle designer was always very excited to show off his puzzles, which was quite nice. So the moment he'd make anything, he'd be like, "Hey, someone just play this, try this out."
Yeah.
And it was very easy to like very quickly see if a puzzle was good, effective, what needed a change. So lots of playtesting from like just a single minute worth of playtesting to the entire length of the game.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've had a lot of people like get one or two and then like they just try and get in there because it's such a hassle finding the other ones.
Is there an order that people typically get them in? I'm guessing this must be the first one people usually get. The spade.
Yeah, there's one or two that people often get first. I think it's the spade, and then there's another one. But because the geometry of the room is so confusing, a lot of people just get them in completely random orders.
Yeah.
And what's quite interesting is when you look at the room, like normally, just as a 3D environment, it's actually very simple to navigate. But because of the the lack of color and shading, it makes it so much harder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny when you said that. I was just thinking, well, yeah, easy for some maybe, and I'm here struggling to find the other two.
Yeah. Do you need some help?
Yeah, if you could give me a hint for the next one.
Okay, so you were close earlier. If you flip back around and go to the door.
The door down here?
Yep. So if you jump off the ledge. Yeah. Somewhere down there.
Oh.
Mm.
Aha. I love the element of surprise. Again, I mentioned before the sort of the eureka moment, like, oh, it was here the whole time. I find this game has it
Yes.
in just tons of those moments where you just feel so clever.
Yes, yeah. That's definitely like the most satisfying feeling as a game developer, seeing someone else feel that, and you're
Yeah,
like, ah, yes, I managed to make them feel satisfied like that.
it worked.
Yep.
Let's see. I had been here, haven't I? Oh no, I have not. Okay. Well, now we can go back.
There you go.
And how long does it typically take for players to complete the game?
I believe our average playtime is about 30 minutes,
Okay.
which is quite a nice period of time because you
Yeah.
can finish it in one sitting. But we actually have quite an interesting speedrunning community that they've managed to nail it down to 2 minutes or something crazy,
Oh my god.
which
But that's speed running. The people who speed run, I find
yes.
are incredibly, I don't know, brave or resilient. Okay, we have one more.
This one's also very tricky.
Oh. Yeah, because I thought there isn't much for the anti-gravity, although there's a bottle here.
Yes, that was something we were trying to telegraph a little bit better to the player because we do turn it off and on at certain times.
Mm,
So at this point in the game, yeah, it is turned off.
okay.
Um,
Oh.
yes. Yeah, that's one of my more favorite just little moments where
Yeah.
it's not quite a puzzle, but it's a nice like illusion.
Mm. We're back in the flat.
Mm.
Oh, and the sort of the beginning with the computer, it reminded me a lot of The Matrix. How the computer is buzzing and then you go up to it and all of a sudden you're transported into the new area.
Yes, yeah. We were trying to go for a COVID kind of theme. A lot of us have been like locked indoors, and at the time of making it, we were kind of, always trapped, and we couldn't like see that many people. Here in New Zealand, we got it a little bit better than I think most of the world.
Yeah.
But we noticed that a lot of people had a hybrid of work and life, and it was very difficult to separate them. So their life space, which would be where the dinner table, they ate dinner, suddenly became their office. And I think that's where a lot of the imagery kind of comes from. We're trying to merge like the office and the home life in a way that kind of blurs everything.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it comes through pretty well as well.
That's good.
Oh. Oh, this took me as a surprise. This is completely different. I think the audio design does such a good job as well to, oh no, to sort of transport you to this new area because of course, oh no, it looks underwater, but I think the players might be unsure of what exactly they're looking at, but then the audio is just really sells the idea.
Yes, yeah. That was one of the things that I think, we put a lot of effort into making sure that the underwater area really felt that way, and I think it was the sound guy coming in and just giving that little like muffled sound that helped everything.
I'm so nervous. I'm not entirely sure this is gonna work, but let's see. Ah, I made it.
Yeah. Yeah, we have a lot of people actually who don't understand the mechanic of those eyes. I think it's very easy to to miss.
Yeah, I feel like it has been taught well during the main game, but I guess yeah, it could be missed as well. Okay.
Yeah. And this room actually stayed from the prototype. So this was about the first piece of content we ever made.
Yeah.
And we were thinking of actually having a whole series of these like lining up puzzles. But we very quickly realized that they were quite easy to solve. You can very quickly understand the axes upon which things are happening. And then it becomes a very simple game of just like, which side do I stand at? And it was also very difficult to line up each individual piece.
Yeah, now I'm trying to see how I can get into the kitchen, and I'm thinking there must be a door somewhere, maybe. Let's see. This is tricky. I must say, for me, that I love games with discoverability and sort of creativity. So, Frame of Mind is like right up my interest. So I'm having a blast playing this. I'm really happy that we were able to do this together. This is really fun.
Oh, that's good. Yeah. Yeah, this room we have a lot of people who complain to us about it afterwards, but we we think the complaining's good.
It's good to stump players a little bit. I was thinking, is there a crouch button? But there hasn't been so far, so I wouldn't think that all of a sudden there would be
Yep,
a,
there
a
is.
crouch button.
There was talk when we were making it of having an interact button, but we wanted to try and limit the amount of abilities that the player has to as few as possible,
Yeah.
just to help it stay quite cohesive. Because the moment you can interact with things, it's like, what else can I interact with? This TV, this coffee table, why not? Yeah.
Oh no. I'm looking in the environment to see if there's any way I can get around. So it's not this simple. It can't be.
No, it's not. You are correct. This room, we have a lot of players half stumble on the solution as well. And I think that helps that makes the playtime vary quite a bit. I mean, some people take an hour and some people take 15 minutes on their first playthrough. And it's just, sometimes the player will just hit the button at the right time and then suddenly, oh, they're actually in a different place. And then they realize the solution straight away. And I think that's kind of one of the troubles of having a puzzle game which is based exclusively on your position. If the player like moves slightly, they can discover like that.
I'm so annoyed. It was there the whole time.
Yeah, I think it throws the player off because we actually teleport them from the ocean world into a hallway going that way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so the player has to like backtrack and understand that, like, you know, sometimes you got to go back to go forward.
Yeah, not everything will be exactly as you remember it either.
No, yes. Yeah.
Oh, is this an infinite hallway? David, what are you doing to me?
Yes.
I just saw the horizon kept changing, and I'm thinking, no.
Yeah. That was a very fun one to implement as well.
Oh, okay. Huh. Well, I think let's see what time it is. Yeah, I think unfortunately we have to come to an end quite soon. I don't want to stop playing. I think I'll keep playing afterwards. But what is there anything else that you'd like to mention before we end the call?
I don't think so. Yep, I think, yeah, kind of just hope you have fun, and if you get stuck, let me know.
Yeah, absolutely. And for anyone who's
Yeah.
interested in playing, it's the game's available on Steam. Any other platforms?
We do have it available on itch as well.
Okay.
Just for those of you who prefer itch, you can get an exe. But yeah, just Steam for now.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining me. I really genuinely had a great time playing it, and I'm happy that we got to get together and do this together.
That's good. Thanks for having me.
All right.
It's been fun.
Thank you so much.